Here's why you will never ever be rich. Listen closely to the end of the video. I'm going to tell you the single biggest thing that's stopping you from acquiring wealth. I promise you, you don't want to miss this one. Once there was a young man, we'll call him Steve. He wanted nothing more than to be successful in life. He longed and he craved and he dreamed of one day being successful because he was tired and sick of people pushing him around and people treating him not how he deserved to be treated. So what did he do? He did what any young, ambitious man does. He set out and he tried to become successful. He decided to pick the career of law because he heard that that's where the big money was at. And that's exactly what he did. Decades went by, he's established himself into the field, right? He's making $300,000 a year. Things are going great. At least that's what he was thinking. He realized something at this point. He realized he was actually depressed. He realized that he despised his job. People at work, bosses were telling him what to do, and he wasn't in control of his hours. He was working 70 hours a week. So he realized that he just wanted to feel higher status than the people of his past, the people that really ridiculed him. But at the end of the day, he was in a situation where he hated his life, really. And just to make things better, the firm he worked for decided to start sacking people off because it was now the 2008 recession. He lost his job. And at 40 years old, he went broke. The reason he went broke is because he was spending all the money that he had and he had nothing to show for it. He was living a lifestyle which maybe he couldn't afford. And now what he had to do is he had to get a second job finally when he found one, and he would manage to retire at age 70. And then he financially struggled until the rest of his life until he died. So the question is that I want to ask you, what did Steve do wrong? What could he have done better? Now, some people might be wondering, he didn't do anything wrong. He lived his life like that. And that's fine. That's a fair response. A lot of listeners may think he should have invested money. He should have saved money. He should have thought about his pension earlier. He should have done, by the way, pensions are a scam. He should have done all these things to prepare for the future, or maybe he shouldn't have picked a career in law. Now, let me tell you something that I think is a better solution, a better alternative to all of this. That literally, if you can do this one thing, this is going to literally completely change your life, I promise you. And this is going to put you ahead in the decades to come compared to 99% of people. What you need to understand is most people, they earn an income here and then they spend here. These are their expenses, and when they earn more money, they spend more money. And that's entirely reasonable because, I mean, you're earning more money, you've worked hard, you want to spend more money, you want to, enjoy the fruits of your labor. That makes sense, right? But the big problem is, where's the buffer? You see, when you have a buffer of money, you can invest that money. You can use that to create some stability. If people really understood the power of this, they probably wouldn't act in the ways that they act. And let me explain to you why I think it's a math problem. Take a 25-year-old guy, let's compare a 25-year-old guy who works hard in his prestigious career. He's making a lot of money. He's making 100k a year for his age, yeah? That's good money. After tax, let's say it's 66k, right? Of this money, he spends it all. He's enjoying his lifestyle. He's making all this money. He's worked hard for it. He's spending all his money, right? And for 40 years until the age of 65, that's what he's been doing. So later in life, he may struggle. Whereas if you compare it to a guy who's also 25, he's making a more modest wage of 40k. After tax, this is 30k, let's say. And of that 30k, he spends 20k, enjoy himself, but he invests 10k. If we assume that he's investing at a 10% rate of return, which you can do realistically with index fund investing, then by the time he's 65, he doesn't have no money. He has a nest egg worth 4.4 million pounds or dollars, whatever you're measuring in. Now, that's a lot. That 4.4 million pounds, you accumulated that over 40 years of investing, right? That much money, you've got what we call a safe withdrawal rate. If you withdraw 4% of that money, people generally, there's a lot of studies to show that on an index fund, 4% is a safe withdrawal rate, even though the exact number is debated, but let's assume a safe withdrawal rate of 4%. What does that mean? It means out of the 4.4 million, 4% of that, which is 176,000, you can spend that per year and that's going to be fine. You're not going to run out of money until the day you die. 176k, he's living a life with 176k per year, which he can blow to the rest of his life. And obviously he's a guy who's making 40k a year. Why? Because he knew the power of investing. So it's drastic. It's a lot more money compared to the guy who was making 100k a year and now he's suddenly in a situation where he's struggling to retire. You see the stark difference. So I'd like to point out that this example, it doesn't account for inflation. It doesn't account for increasing prices of your wages. But obviously these are assumptions that we make. So now you've got this example, right? We need to think, how can we improve on this example? Well, I can tell you how we can improve in this example. There's two main ways. First way is invest more money. So that 40k a year job, 30k he's got his income after tax, 20k of that he's spending, you know, he's blowing it, 10k he's investing. What if he cuts his spending back to, let's say, 15k? Now he can invest 15k. Well, people could argue, look, that's not much of a quality of life. And look, you can only cut back so much. It comes to a point where you need to try to increase your income. You can do that through, you know, picking a high paid career. You can do that through business. You can do that through however you want to do it. But let's say you do that, and even if you don't do that, it's still everything is worth it. What we're talking about in this video, it still applies to you. But if you can, increase your income so you can invest more money. Okay, let's do another example, right? So let's say now you're a 25-year-old person who's making 100k a year, which is now 66k after tax. 21k of the 66k, you're spending it, and then the other 45k, you can invest it, right? If you invest that money at a 10% rate of return, the time it'll take to reach the same amount of money as the previous example, which was 4.4 million pounds with a 176k a year income, the time it takes is not going to take you till 65 this time. It's going to take you until the age of 50. You've decreased the time by 15 years just because of increasing your income. And I promise you, you can do it even better than that again. The second thing we said that can drastically, you know, increase the wealth that you build is the rate of return. So we're assuming a 10% rate of return in the previous examples. Let's say you can beat it. You can beat it in property. You can beat it if you know what you're doing in stocks, cryptocurrency. If you're going to beat that 10%, and let's say you get consistently 16% rate of return, right? Now, it's not going to take you till age 50. It's going to take you until the age of 41 to reach that 4.4 million pounds and 176k a year income. Do you see the power of this compound interest? Again, we're still not done. So these examples are assuming a 4% withdrawal rate. Through property, it's clear that you can get a higher withdrawal rate because it's a cash flowing product. Let's say you can get 8% withdrawal rate. And let's say you want to make an income passively of about 100k a year, mostly passive through property. Well, if you do the maths, that means you want to make 100k a year passively, right? You need about 1.25 million of a nest egg. You need to accumulate through investing. Then that would make you 100k a year with an 8% withdrawal rate in property. So now if you do that, assume a 16% rate of return. If you assume that you're investing 45k a year, how long do you think it will take now? It takes you less than 12 years. It takes you less than 12 years to become financially free. You can do what you want. You have the increased stability. You've got passive income coming in, and life's good. It all comes down to increasing the rate of return and increasing the amount of money you invest. You can invest more money through business, and you can increase your rate of return by understanding how to invest better. The power of this is when you get to that point where you're financially free, where you can basically, you've got about 100k coming in and it covers all your expenses, then it's up to you. You can decide to work that job. You want to work that job, you can work that job, that's fine. If you hate your job, leave the job, go do something else. You're not tied down anywhere. You can follow your passions. You don't even have to work if you don't want to. And that doesn't mean it has to end there. It doesn't mean you have to just, I'm retired at age 30, 35. What you can do if you want to, you can go out there and you can think of ways to further your wealth. You're in a perfect position to actually further your wealth because you've got the position of money coming in passively, not completely passively, but it's a much more passive. The money you've got from your investments is not directly tied to your time like when working is. If you think that you're going to work and make your riches doing that actively through working for someone else, it doesn't work like that. And it sounds cliche, it sounds very hypey, but honestly, this is exactly what it takes. This is exactly what it is. And I told you, I promised you to watch to the end of the video, and you would see how to basically acquire wealth. And it might not sound pretty, but I'm telling you, this is the one thing that's going to change. If you can just nail down this one thing, you'll be sorted. What allowed you to acquire wealth? Well, it's the difference between what you income and your expenses. That much money there is your buffer. You invest that. The bigger your buffer, the more free you are. The quicker you will attain freedom. When your income and your expenses are like this, you're in a tricky spot. You're in a very tricky spot. When you start to invest like this and you're thinking about the long-term growth, thinking about increasing your rate of return, you're thinking about how to invest more money, that's when you acquire wealth. That's when you can scale, and that's when you can make real progress. You can take those previous examples that we've talked about, especially the more recent one, because that was the best one, and you can literally tailor it to how your lifestyle is, what income you think you'll be making. You can tailor it to what your expectations are, how much you want to make in the future. You can literally tailor it completely to you, and you can be more ambitious than what we talked about or less ambitious than what we talked about. Ultimately, it's up to you. You get out what you put in, it's up to you.